Hi everybody. Today we're going to first do the introduction. For this week's special date is Yud Shvat, the 10th of Shvat, which is the day that the previous Rebbe, so the one who before this Rebbe, passed away.
Okay.
He passed away. And then a year later, his son-in-law, the Rebbe, accepted leadership and became Rebbe. And
can we remember which year it was, or
I think it's in the 1950, but I don't know exactly what year. Yeah, I should have looked it up. That's a good point. Now, the custom when a Rebbe accepted leadership, like how did they know he accepted leadership? Because he first started a Farbringen. And he was doing a Farbringen for his father-in-law, like for his the yard site. But the only way a person becomes a Rebbe is when they say a mimer. A mimer is very different than a Farbringen. A mimer is it's where the Rebbe goes in this trance and he just says, words of Torah. So
dancing, you mean?
No. Trance is when he's just like, they saw that he wasn't he's not here, but he's just, words are coming out of his mouth. Okay, wow, we have a lot of people joining. Welcome everybody.
You say it's the energy of the Rebbe.
I love it. So I'm just gonna recap quickly. Please mute yourselves. I'm just gonna recap quickly. We're talking about Yud Shvat. This Wednesday is a special day where the previous Rebbe passed away, and the Rebbe, the Lubavitcher Rebbe, who accepted leadership a year later. How did he accept leadership? Is when he told over this mimer. So I was explaining what a mimer is. A mimer is when they go into this trance and they just say words of Torah that just come. I can't explain exactly. Maybe I'm going to look it up after, but it's very different than a regular talk.
Okay.
You can tell that the Rebbe is bringing high
levels down.
Yeah. So this mimer that he started was a mimer that the other Rebbes also said, and he expanded. It's called Basi Legani, which starts with the words in Shir HaShirim, where I come to my garden. It's talking about God coming into his garden. What is his garden? It's the world. Now you have to understand, when the Rebbe accepted leadership in the 1950s, it was right after the Second World War. The Jewish people were in a very low place, and they did not see the world as God's garden. The world was very negative, not accepting, not loving, and he brings this whole thing to bring, and this, you have to understand also, his first speech is what inspired his whole leadership throughout all the years. So what does this speech talk about? It talks about God wanting to come back into his garden. That originally God was in this, when he created the world, he was in his garden. A garden, it represents a place of comfort, of leisure, where he's not he's not in his palace and serving. He's just comfortable with the people he loves, close. So it's really like a comfortable place for him. And when Adam and Eve sinned, it pushed away that high part of God, that part of God that's comfortable, that's the, you can see people, there's two ways of seeing people. You can know people like only on the outside, when they're formal and when they're in their job, and then you have closer relationships where you get to see them at home, sometimes in pajamas, when they're more comfortable, chilling. That's a different relationship. So God wants to be in this world, not when he's formal and all official. No, so that part of God, it's called the Shekhinah, was pushed away when Adam and Eve sinned. And then Abraham later brought it down, started bringing it down. Yitzchak, Yaakov, and throughout the generations until it came to Moshe, who was the seventh tzaddik, who brought God down at Matan Torah, and finally God was back inside the world. And that's when we received the Torah. And from there, God said, I want to dwell within each of you. Build me a temple, and I want to dwell. Not only I want to be in this world, I want to dwell in each one of you, Jewish people. It's not just tzaddikim that will bring God, but every single one of you, every time you do a good action, or you change your heart, or you make the right choice within you. Because choices, there's the choice really begins within you, within your heart and your mind. That's where the choice begins. It doesn't begin where your action is. For sure, action is important. But chovot halevavot, what we're learning is the work of the heart. How when you work on your heart, it could refine you and refine the choices you make. So this is what brings God in this world. Again, God was...
10 also?
What?
Quand on est 10 aussi?
No, but God, the Shekhinah, yes, God, when we're 10 people, we bring a part of God, but when for God to dwell in this world, we have to do a physical action in this world to bring him down.
Okay.
And it starts in the heart. And in the action, heart and action. It says I heard this very beautiful quote, and I'm going to conclude with this. The very challenges that obscure meaning are the ones that make its revelation possible. And this is what Basiligani is. The very challenges that you have in your life that block you and stop you from accomplishing, or stop you from finding meaning, or stop you from doing Torah and mitzvot, or stop you from being the person you want to be. Those challenges is what can make revelation possible. This is where the biggest light is. So, for example, if your challenge is sadness, mental health, that is where the biggest light, the biggest joy, the biggest revelation lies, is within that challenge of sadness and mental health. If your challenge is addiction, you keep on being so addicted to stuff and so codependent and so always running and depending on that, that's where your light is. Where can you find and transform that into light?
But I don't get it.
How? So that's a whole different class. But if you have something that's pulling you constantly to be addicted, it means you have a very strong desire of being connected to something higher. By taking that, first of all, taking care of your addiction if you have something serious, but it says that everyone who heals their addiction, right away they find God, because they removed that thing that numbed them, that numbed their emptiness, and they had to replace it with something. So by replacing it, and instead of being addicted to Hashem fully and dedicating your life fully to Hashem, you're turning that darkness, the biggest challenge, into light. It says that the people who have the biggest souls, the most beautiful souls, have the biggest Yetzer Hara. Yetzer Hara. So when someone is struggling with different things, it's not because they're bad people. It's because they have such a big light, and they just have to transform that darkness that they have into that light. So that's what our job is to do. And this is what the Rebbe's message, when he took leadership, and the Rebbe, by creating all these Chabad, is giving opportunity to every single Jew, no matter where you find, wherever, if you're in Brossard or in Shanghai or in Australia, you have the opportunity to transform your darkness into light. Okay? So this is the introduction for today. Now we will go inside. For those who have the book, it's page 174. And very, very interesting what it talks about today. So we just spoke about how do you have bitachon when it comes to keeping Torah and mitzvot. Are you allowed to say, when it comes to my work, I need to do my work in order to make money. But when it comes to Torah and mitzvot, that's God's choice. If he wants me to do Torah and mitzvot, he will give me that inspiration. He will put me in the right place, or he will, make it easier for me. That's not the right attitude to have. Not at all. Actually, God gave us the only freedom of choice he gave us. God gives us everything. God decides how much money we'll have, what our health will be, what our social life will be. Everything that's in God's hand. We just have to pray and create the keli, but that is God's choice. Your whole life, your character traits, your strength, your jobs opportunity, the people, the network you have, all that was chosen by God. That was chosen by God. It wasn't your choice. It's not your wisdom. It's not your luck. It's nothing. It was God who put you in that situation for you to be able to accomplish your mission. What is the only place you have a free choice? Is when it comes to Torah and mitzvah. That God said, yeah, that I'm not forcing you. That I'm not giving you opportunities. That I will not give you wisdom. This is where you have to go and create those opportunities. You have to go and work on yourself and say, yes, I'm making the choice today. I want to come and learn so that I can be inspired, so I can be connected, so I can be influenced to make better choices in my life, more connected. I make that choice today to wake up early and to pray to God because I want to be connected. I make that choice to buy kosher food and do whatever you need to do to connect it. That is your choice. That is not God. God does not chase you. He does not want to force you to do Torah and mitzvah. He wants it to come from you. So don't misplace your trust. Where do you have to have trust? Is that when you tried your best to do Torah and mitzvah and it still didn't work, you have to trust that this was God's plan.
Okay.
You know, I always light Shabbat candles. Obviously, it's part of me. I remember one Friday night, and I still remember, it's something that like marked me. One Friday was very crazy time period in my life. And my kids were young. It was just a crazy Friday. Very crazy enough that when Shabbat came, it was like too late and I didn't like candles. I didn't like candles. It was it was once in my lifetime, yeah.
Because you forgot or because you didn't want to?
No, it just didn't happen.
Oh, wow.
It just, I don't know what, it was just such a crazy, it never happened in my life. And I remembered, I was so upset at myself and my husband's like it was meant to be, you know, like this was not your choice. Until today, I add an extra candle just for that Shabbat I missed.
No way.
Because,
that's
you know,
cute.
So again, you can do your best. Sometimes it doesn't work. And sometimes God will give you those opportunities for, you know, when I moved to the South Shore, I originally did not want to move. I'm not someone who likes to tell people what to do or to, you know, like it's very personal when it comes to Judaism. But what I discovered blew my mind. I discovered that people who were living here did not have these opportunities. They were brought up differently. They had different life choices and they wanted to keep Torah and mitzvah. They just didn't know how. They were put in, you know, so Hashem places you in different situations and you shouldn't be so harsh on yourself. And you should also realize, it made me realize, like, that's why I opened up a Hebrew school, because parents came over and they said, you know, even if our kids, you know, have non-Jewish dads, or are in non-Jewish schools, we still want them to have, you know? Yeah. So they made that effort. And I remember, you know, one woman said, I've been praying to God for a rabbi, and God sent me the rabbi, you know? Like, again, she doesn't keep Torah and mitzvot, but she tries. You know, she was put in a situation where it's not easy for her, but the most important is the effort, and God is there to listen, and the desire in your heart to want. And God will give you these opportunities if you search. Now over here is it's the fifth category. The author now turns to discuss how a person is to have bitachon regarding matters of the fifth category. Matters pertaining to Torah and mitzvot that affect both the person performing them and the people with whom he is performing them. So this is mitzvot, or duties, that affect other people. So you can be, you know, you can do everything in your possibility to do that, to accomplish that. For example, tzedakah. Right. You could make sure to give tzedakah, but what if the person doesn't accept your tzedakah? Or what if your money harms that person? You find out later that it brought them more harm. You know, they went and they bought themselves drugs or whatever it is. What attitude should you have? How should bitachon play a role when it comes to mitzvahs and duties that are not fully in your hands? Yeah. Okay? So this is very interesting, and it will tell us it will teach us a big lesson. אבל פירוש החלק החמישי והוא חובות האיברים אשר תועלתם ונזקם מסברים אל זולתו. We will now discuss the explanation of how to have proper bitachon regarding the fifth category, namely the duties that a person performs with his limbs that benefit or harm, if he doesn't do the right thing, another person. Kitzdaka, and now he's going to bring examples. What are these mitzvot or these duties that could affect and that are not fully you, if it's you to keep kosher, it's your responsibility. You do the effort and you'll be able to keep kosher. But if it comes to, and here he gives example, kitzdaka, example of the mitzvot that fall in this category include charity, v'amaser, separation of the tenth, v'limud hachachma, teaching Torah wisdom to other people, v'tzavot betov v'azer me'ara, teaching other people proper conduct and warning them against bad behavior, ולהשיב האמנות ולהסתיר הסוד ולדבר טוב ולעשות הטוב וכיבוד אבות והשבת החשאים אל האלוקים ואורות בני אדם דרכי טובתם לחמול ענייהם ולרחם עליהם ולסבול חרפתם כשמאיר אותם אל העבודה ומייחל אותם ומיירם בגמול ובעונש. Similarly, returning deposit and debts, keeping a secret, speaking good about a fellow, behaving kindly with the fellow, honoring parents, humbling the wicked so they return to the service of God, advising people about what is good for them, having compassion for the poor people, and being merciful towards people when they are in distress. This also includes tolerating embarrassment by people when attempting to inspire them to divine service by informing them of the great reward that is due to people who perform God's will, and by instilling in them the fear of punishment that is due people who transgress God's will. So again, what are these things? Anything that's your duty, or that's a mitzvah, for that, and that's related to another person, which is giving charity, which is giving a tenth, which is teaching Torah. What if you teach Torah and
you have a responsibility?
It's a huge responsibility. What if the person takes it bad? There's a story of a student who was learning from his Rebbe, and his Rebbe said something, I don't remember exactly, and he decided to leave the whole Torah and mitzvot, and he became like the biggest atheist and so what responsibility, what happened to that Rebbe? That the Rebbe was a big rabbi.
So that's God's will,
is it God's will? What did you do something wrong? Where does bitachon play a role here? Mm-hmm. Can you rely fully on God, or do you take responsibility? What if you're teaching someone how to, that's education. You're teaching your children how to behave properly, and they turn out the biggest criminals. Where does that bitachon come? Is it fully your responsibility?
I don't think so.
What about when you owe money to someone and they come and blame you that you stole their money, or it turns bad against you?
Keeping a secret, that's
keeping
a
a secret. Well, it's being able to be trustworthy. I think keeping a secret is again, it's mitzvot and duties, anything that that's moral, exactly, that between man and man, or women and women. Speaking good about a fellow. What about you're talking good about someone? No, you're talking good about someone and it turns out against you. Is that your fault? Behaving kindly with a fellow. You're behaving nicely. How many times do we act nicely towards people? And sometimes it turns out bad. It turns against you. Honoring parents. Unfortunately, sometimes people could honor their parents, and again, their parents take advantage of them or abuse them, or it could turn against them. Humbling the wicked, okay, when you have to rebuke someone. That's one of the hardest thing. It actually gives you responsibility that if you see someone doing something wrong, you should be able to tell them what they're doing wrong. Or having compassion for the poor. All these things, I once when you drive out of Dekari, you know, the first exit on Sherbrooke, and there's always
traffic there.
no, there's always by the light, by the green light, the first exit when you come from the 15, there's a bunch of homeless that come to your door. So I never give money. Once I said, you know what, I have food, I'll give them food.
Okay.
He gave me such attitude.
No.
Yeah, he wanted money. He didn't want food, you know.
Yeah.
And I since then I'm like, you know what, I'm not giving them.
I'm not opening the door.
But like,
the window.
was it a good deed of me to do that or not? So what attitude should you
You're
have?
not responsible of the reaction of others, according to me. And since you're in your mind and heart doing it with good intention, then I think the bitachon should be, that's God's plan if they want to be.
Okay,
like
so
that.
what intention should you have? So that's a very good point. What if you give advice to someone and that advice turns bad? What if you do a shidduch for someone and the shidduch turns out bad? I'm saying,
but until your intention was so pure and so nice, I don't think you can be accused of anything.
So
right?
let's read what it says. So let me just read. Advising people about what is good for them. So this is interesting. This translation follows Pat Lachem. Others have the version His good, according to which the words are to be understood as teaching about kindness. Okay. Caring for another's spirituality is no different from material help. On the verse, do not stand idly by the blood of your fellow. So there's a pasuk that says you're never allowed to stand by someone who's getting killed. You have to go and save them and do whatever you can to save that person. The Holy Shalom writes, all the more so if you should see someone about to transgress a prohibition, thereby losing his world to come, you must save them. So also someone who transgressed something, you should also save them. It goes for their spiritual world or someone who's obviously getting killed. If by divine providence a person is in a position to help his fellow spiritually, then this compels him to conclude that God showed or made him aware of the situation for him to get involved and help us. If you saw someone who needs help, if you saw it, it means God gave you the capability of saving them. In whatever situation it is, you see someone drowning, you see someone getting hurt. If you saw that, it means God gave you the power to save that person. So too in spiritual, if you see someone spiritually drowning and struggling, you have the responsibility to help them. And you have the capability. If God made you see this, if you're able to see this situation, God gave you the capability of saving that person. Even if the person is engaged in learning Torah, we have a principle that when there is a commandment that cannot be performed by others, so even if he's busy learning Torah, or there's a story of the Rebbe, I'm not sure which Rebbe it was, but it was one of the Rebbes, the father and the son. They lived in the same house. And they were on different floors. It was the middle of the night. They were learning Torah. The grandfather was on the bottom. I think the son was on the top learning. Like the grandfather lived on the bottom apartment. The son lived on the top. And the baby was in the middle floor. Something like that. And the baby wakes up in the middle of the night crying. And the father's so engrossed in Torah, he didn't hear him. The grandfather was also engrossed in Torah, but he heard him. He got up. He took care of the baby and put him back to sleep. And then he went to his son. And he said, even if you're learning Torah, if it's in the middle of the night and there's a baby crying, you stop everything and you go help that baby. And what he was hinting was really, if there's a Jew crying in the middle of the night, you stop everything and you go help them. And that's really the message of Chabad, because a lot of people would rebuke Chabad and say, what are you going you stopping to learn Torah? And the boys in yeshiva would go and do miftzayim. Yeah. Miftzayim is they would go to the streets and do wrapped tefillin, exactly. And people would be like, what are you stopping to learn Torah to make people who are sinners? They saw people who weren't religious as sinners, and they made fun of the Rebbe when he brought this out. But they didn't understand the concept that your Torah is worth nothing if you're not helping someone. If you're not there as someone who's crying, exactly, a soul who's crying, someone who's in the darkness, and you're not helping them, your Torah is worth nothing.
I agree. 100%.
So it's a huge responsibility to go and help someone. And if you saw that, if you're in that situation where someone is struggling, you have the responsibility to help. Now, what happens if you help and it doesn't come out the way it should happen? Where does bitachon come in?
Yeah.
Where can you be like, God, I did my best, it's not my fault? Where does response, it's very nuanced.
But it can put you in danger too. So you should go even if, let's say, quelqu'un qui est en train de se noyer physiquement, on a déjà tous entendu qu'il voulait, quelqu'un est allé pour le sauver, c'est celui qui est allé se sauver qui est noyé finalement. So, what is the attitude we should have? Like, just to jump in the danger, just to help others,
So it's
right?
a good, honestly, it's a good, I hope I will never be placed in this situation because I don't know. But someone who has this love for humanity will go. It says the Rebbe, when he was a young boy, this is a story that he hid from his mother. He was young. There was someone drowning, and he went in and saved. And he was young. I think the person was older than him. He saved him. He didn't drown, obviously. But someone told his mother after, and and that's how we knew the story. If not, he wouldn't tell anyone. So someone who has that strong moral humanity will go and, and I hope to have that. I hope not to be placed in that situation. But
like
it's
psychology too. Psychologiquement aussi, quelqu'un qui est en train de se noyer psychologiquement, you want to help him, and it can give you that.
And I think it's an important message because, okay, we don't see people drowning in water all the time, but we see people drowning all the time
in their lives.
Of course. And most people choose to close. To say, I've seen so many people close their and I might be guilty of that. If you're not emotionally ready, it's very hard to.
No, but
I hope
attitude?
to like I remember I'll share a personal story of I saw a girl in my daughter's class struggling. I knew she was struggling, but I guess you don't want to butt in. They're little kids, And I once had her over for Shabbat, and then my daughter shared something, and she was struggling with her, and I said I have two choices. I could ignore it, or I could do something about it. And I also I was able to relate. And you know what? It's something that took me, and I was surprised because it's not I don't usually like to, especially younger, I don't like to impose myself on other people. And I'm not a savior. Like, I don't want to save people. Like, if someone comes, I'll help you, but I'm not someone who loves to run and save people. Like, I don't know. It's just not my thing. And I went out of my way, and I actually messaged her, and we went out and we spoke, and she wrote to me, wow, you don't know how much you changed my, and it's not to share. I'm not sharing this for my, I don't need credit.
Not for your
ego. But no, it's not for my ego. The reason why I shared, because naturally I would not have done it.
This is what
and I want you guys to think, you know what, the challenge for me this week, and it's related to Yud Shvat. Because Yud Shvat, he brings in a story. The Rebbe brings in a story of every Rebbe, their crazy love that they had for the Jewish people. And one of the stories, I was not sure if I'm going to share, but I'm going to share it with you. And then I'll tell you what your challenge for this week is. The Alter Rebbe, the first Chabad Rebbe, okay? He wrote the Tanya. He had a hard life. He had so much religious rabbis against him. And if this story would have been out during this time, he would have been X-rated. But it only came out later. It was a story that was secret, that was passed on. It was one Yom Kippur. They were praying in Shul, and in middle of, I don't remember what part of the prayer, he took off his talit, he left the synagogue, and obviously there's Hasidim that are so curious, followed him, like, why is he leaving in the middle of Yom Kippur? And they see him, he's walking until he gets to the end of town next to the forest, and he goes into a house. No, he goes into maybe he goes into the house, and he goes into the forest. He gets an axe on Yom Kippur, an axe. He goes into the forest, cuts wood on Yom Kippur, brings the wood, carries it. Like, just think of all the malacha that he's doing. He's breaking his whole Yom Kippur. And he brings the wood, starts a fire, cooks a soup. There was a woman who had just given birth who was dying because she was hungry, cold, alone. And her family all left to the synagogue because, praying for Yom Kippur is first, and he felt that woman in pain, and he couldn't continue his prayers. And he took care of her, and then he went back. And the Hasidim were shocked. Like, just think of them, their rabbi broke, cutting wood, lighting a fire, cooking for a woman, like, really?
They couldn't understand. Even know, or she was related
he didn't know.
Him,
no, not related, a Jewish woman. And they couldn't understand that, and the Rebbe brought it in the mimer, in this mimer,
Okay.
Basilagani, to show us to what extent the love of a fellow Jew. And I challenge you, because now we're talking about mitzvot that are related to other people. I challenge you, if you're in a situation where you see someone struggle, are you going to ignore? Or are you going to try to help with humbleness? Remember, and this is where we're going to, what is the proper way? What is the proper bitachon when it comes to helping people? Or are you going to go help? Are you going to have, take whatever it takes to go and help that person? And I'm going to read inside what is the proper way to help a person. Afne yosher habitachon bazeh shiyo adam tzofen bilvavo. כל המעשים האלה והדומה להם ויבחר אותם ויסבב עליהם כפי מה שהקדמנו בחלק הרביעי מחיוב הבחירה. What is the proper way to have bitachon regarding these aforementioned matters? So what is the proper way to have bitachon when doing mitzvot related to others? The person should have in his heart the intention to do all these acts and the like, should the opportunity arise to do them. When the opportunity does arise, he should make the choice to do them and pursue the means with which to do them, as already explained in the fourth category. So what should he have? It's in his heart. He should have the proper intention. He should do, like it's in the fourth category, we said how you should do everything in your possibility to do that mitzvah, right? When you have, for you to be able to do the mitzvah, you have to work. You have to create that desire and motivate yourself and plan and really do everything to do a mitzvah. But in this one, in the one when it comes to related to other people, you should have in your heart
the intention,
all the good intention to do it.
Right?
Yes, exactly, for the right reason. Not, and he continues, עלינו להתקרב על האלוקים בלבד, לא לקנות שם וכבוד ביניהם ולא לכבוד הגמול מהם ולא להשתרד עליהם. You should have in mind the goal of drawing others closer to God, and not with the goal of acquiring for himself a name or honor from people with whom he is performing these mitzvot. So you're really, when you do these mitzvot, it's different than when you do other regular mitzvot. When you do other regular mitzvot, it's for yourself. It's for you to come closer to God. And you have to do that effort. God won't give you that motivation. God won't guide you to do it. You have to make that choice. But when it comes to mitzvot related to others, which is honoring your parents, which is helping, being kind, keeping a secret, that means trusting someone, talking about kindly about someone, behaving, giving tzedakah, charity, helping, whatever it is, you have to have in your heart the intention that you're doing it for the right reason and not for the big name and not because you hope to get whatever it is that you'll get from it.
Is it valid if we do it with the intention of being faithful to God? Like,
and so it's and what is faithful to God is you're hoping that by being kind to that person, you're going to bring them, what's the best thing you can do? Bring them closer to God, because they will feel loved. Remember, when we do an action, we're just the hand of God. When we're doing a mitzvah, we're just doing something that God really wants to do. So we can bring that person closer to God just by being so kind.
But let's say, kavod les parents, tu le fais pas pour que genre tes frères et sœurs ou ta famille ou tes pères te disent waouh, tu es une fille magnifique. But est-ce que tu peux le faire juste parce que c'est ça qu'il faut faire, et que tu es
especially if you have good parents, it's easier. But I'm saying for people who have parents that they're struggling with, when they're honoring their parents, they're doing it only for God. There's no other reason. If God gave us the mitzvah of honoring your parents, it's because it could be very hard. Some parents take advantage of it. Some parents are narcissistic. Some parents are abusive. And when they honor their parents, they are only doing it for God. No other reason. So I think this is a very, very powerful message. When we do mitzvot that are related to other people, when we do duties that have to do with other people, yes, we're going to do everything in our effort to do that mitzvah, but we have to work in our heart. Chovot alevavot is the work of the heart. We have to think in our heart. Am I really doing? We have to be intentional about it. Don't just do it. You know, like there's a lot of, like when I say I don't like to be a savior, because there is a thing, a non-healthy, toxic trait of people wanting to save they'll always be there to save the situation, and then when they have to be there, they won't. Like for their families, they won't be there because they're not the hero, you know. But whenever
it's stuck.
You know, so it's not coming from the right place. But if you see something, and I remember I was in situations like that where people were struggling, and like all those people are running, and like, you know, you're like, why are you running? Like it's like an opportunity to get fame and to get whatever it is that they're looking to get. Think you're placed in this situation, you saw this, how can you help that person? And make sure that your intentions are the right intentions, and if the right intention, you won't bring any harm. And even if there is harm, right, you help that person and that person spits back in your face, just know on the long run it's going to be for the good.
The ending results shouldn't be our preoccupation.
If in your heart you know,
it's authenticity, it's that.
But that's very hard. Should I end with a very powerful story that I'm not sure is related, but I wanted to share because I heard it, and it might be a little hard. It's a hard story, but do you guys want me to share it, or do you want anyone have things to? Okay, it's a little bit of a hard story, but I don't know. It really moved me, and when I heard it, my daughter shared it with me, and I heard it, and I'm like, I want to share it in my real story. I want to share it in my class. So her teacher shared it that he heard it firsthand from the Holocaust survivor. I think it was a mom who was going to the trains. And she had her baby and she had all her possessions with her, and someone told her, why are you going to the trains? You know that you're going to be killed. Like, so she decided to run away. And as soon as she saw him, she had two bags. She put one bag, she put her baby in, and one bag she put her money in, and she just started running. And she's running, and she sees that an officer saw her and is running after her. So the bags are really heavy, so she doesn't know what to do. So she's running. She's like, okay, I'm just going to drop my money bag. So she drops her money bag and she continues running. And then she doesn't hear the officer running after her. So she's hiding like in the forest, and she looks back and she sees the officer looking in the bag. So she looks quickly in her bag.
Uh-oh, she has the baby.
She saw she threw the baby.
Yeah.
And the message she shared is what's powerful. She shared that she will never forgive herself for that, because even if as a mother her intention was to keep the baby and not the money, somehow inside of her she had a 1% where the money was more important, or their money was very important, and that mistake, and that's what caused that mistake. She would have never done that mistake if in her mind money was not important. I thought like that for me in the beginning when my daughter shared, I thought was like, whoa, a horrible story. But it's a message for us. Hopefully we will never be put in this situation. And I don't know how this woman could live with herself. But this is where we have to think about intention. And this is where we have to be very, very truthful with ourselves in our heart. What are we? And this is a work that is a work of a lifetime. Chovot HaLevavot is a work of a lifetime, because sometimes we can be like, for sure my baby comes first. I don't care about money. My baby comes first. For sure she didn't want to give up her baby. But because in somewhere in her heart she had that slight doubt, it led her to make that mistake. And when it comes to relationship with other people, we never want to bring harm, especially when it comes to our kids, our spouse, our loved ones, anyone. We don't want to harm, but we have to really dig deep in ourselves. If we do end up harming, and it happens all the time, we harm our kids, we harm our close ones. It happens all the time, and we have to look inside. Where is it in my heart that I'm still not satisfied, or that I have that hatred, or that I have that whatever animosity towards that other person that's causing me to harm that person? We have to be truthful, and it's something that's very, very hard, and we have to be very true, very real, and to be very honest with ourselves, brutally honest, is very hard.
Yeah.
So I hope it's not too negative.
No.
But it's a challenge for this week on Yuchvat, which is the Rebbe's leadership his leadership was of an extreme love for the Jewish people, I can tell. Should I tell you another story? One more story. There was the Rebbe would receive letters, right? Daily letters, and he would respond to every letter. How? Don't ask me how. But once his translator of the Flemish language, he would Flemish is Flamand. So what passed away, I think, and he needed a new person. So they contacted this person. The Rebbe secretary contacted this person, and he's like, what an honor, for sure I'm going to translate. So they gave him all the Flemish letters, and he was reading them and translating them, and then he got annoyed. He's like, some of them were silly questions or whatever. He's like, so he calls this Rebbe secretary. He's like, can I just read the general letter and and just give the Rebbe like a general thing of what's written? And he's like, let me ask the Rebbe. He comes back. He's like, the Rebbe said, if you're too busy to do it, don't do it. Wow. He needs to know every single detail, word by word. He cared about, like that person was like, what is this old man complaining about his? I don't know what people wrote to the Rebbe about, but he cared about every single He really cared about the person, and every word of that letter was important to him. Crazy. Was something that we can't understand. And so that is our challenge for this week. If you're in a situation where you see someone struggle, are you going to be able to work inside your heart to really give them that love that doesn't really belong to you, because that love is given from God in order for you to share? Are you able to give that love and help and bring more light?
I didn't think twice about it.
Beautiful. So Mazal, you don't have that struggle.
What she said?
She said she wouldn't think twice about it.
This is what I was about to say.